Prehab audio experience will teach you how to take control of your health through knowledge by optimizing performance, promoting longevity, and keeping your movement system in tune. Welcome to your host, the Prehab Guys.
What's up, everybody? Craig here from the Prehab Guys. I have Arash and Michael joining the show. That is right. I am the host. I am running the show.
Thanks for having me on, Craig.
Yeah,
thanks, Craig.
Today, we are going to be talking about our two recent new programs. So we just released our squat fundamentals program, as well as we released our running prehab program a couple weeks ago. And we've gotten a lot of really good questions. We've gotten a lot of really good comments, as well as some engagement on the discussion boards talking about running and squatting in general. So we figured let's hop on the podcast so that we can dive down some rabbit holes when it comes to the nuances to running, the nuances to squatting, and yeah, let's jump into it. So Arash, Michael, we tried this podcast not too long ago about running, and the laughing joke was that Mike is not doing any running and we were giving him a hard time. But that bit me in the foot because then like 3 days later, I strained my hamstring trying to do sprints. So maybe I should stop running for the rest of this quarantine.
Yeah, but it was training error. So to give the audience some background, Craig, you did some crazy kettlebell workout on one day, and then we were filming the day afterwards a bunch of leg stuff for a lunge program that we're actually going to release soon. And Craig was doing all the exercises, kept complaining, man, I'm so tired. I have to do all this stuff on a single leg. And we kept making Craig do it on the right leg.
All the same leg, yeah.
Because I faced the camera. We were like, okay, it has to be on that leg. He's like, fuck, my leg.
It was hurting. It was definitely hurting. And I totally underestimated it. And just the next day I was like, okay, let me just go do sprints. And I didn't want to go run out in the sun because it was hot. So I was lazy with my warm up. And it's almost been 2 weeks now, but things are feeling really good. So I think I'm going to try to go for a jog today. But yes, do not underestimate the demands on your body with filming, because my legs were thrashed and that just put me over the edge.
Yeah. For those of you guys that don't know, we film for like a few hours at a time. So it's pretty nonstop. And when we're doing one leg constantly, it's just a matter of time before that leg just completely gets exhausted.
We smile when the camera hits starts. We smile when the camera stops. But then when it's not rolling, there's a lot of complaining that
Let's just say there's no Photoshop. If we look like we're working hard, trust me, we're working hard.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with the running program. So the running program, with all this crazy stuff going on with the current pandemic, all three of us, so we were noticing it. We would just look out our window or while we were walking our dogs, and every single person was running. And it makes sense. Running it's free, it's easy access, it doesn't require much equipment, and it's a great way to improve your cardiovascular health. It's great for your heart. However, one of our professors from USC, his favorite quote is, "You don't run to get fit, you have to be fit to run."
The famous Dr. Chris Powers.
Yeah, Dr. Chris Powers, the glute guy, the hip, the other glute guy, not Brett, the other glute guy. So with that being said, I mean, all three of us, we've seen it in the clinic over the past few years. Every single runner that comes into the clinic, all too often you hear that they just started running again. They weren't doing anything else but running. They weren't taking time off. All of these common training errors with running. And there's a good stat out there, probably 85 to 90% of the running injuries are due to training error. So we're like, all right, all these people are going to start running. There's going to be a lot of issues popping up. Let's just put together a really good resource to help people start running, to get back to running, but more importantly, stay running. And we talk about so many different good things with the program, just like practical running hygiene tips. We provide a really good progressive 6-week program for cross-training for runners. And the best part is we actually give you the roadmap and the blueprint to get back to running with an interval running program. So What were some of the questions that came up last time? Because some questions were really good. At least let's talk about running form, and then we can bring up some of the other questions that people had asked. And then what we'll do is we'll transition to the next program.
Yeah. I know a lot of people talked about foot ankle issues throughout the Q&A that we did
that's
last
right.
time.
Achilles stuff.
Yeah, a ton of Achilles stuff. People don't realize how much load is put on the calf when you're running. It's like upwards of 8 to even 12 times the weight of your body is placed just on your calf when you're running. So your body is not prepared for these things. I mean, think about running. It's basically a single leg hop for hundreds and hundreds of repetitions. And if you don't train your body for doing something like that, it's not going to sustain. And if it does, it's only a matter of time, because people don't take appropriate rest breaks, aka Craig here with his hamstring injuries. But it's one of those things where you just have to, like Craig was saying, you just have to slowly progress yourself into it. And it's tough right now because many people don't have options or exercise knowledge to train their body to prepare for running. So what do? They just go to running immediately because there's not a stepping stone that they know of. And that's why when you look out the window, you see a ton of people running. But in reality, there's a skill and there's a progression into getting back to running. And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
You got to listen to your body too. Like, I know a lot of endurance athletes in general are very, very protective and obsessed on their times and their pace. Just like weightlifters and powerlifters are very obsessed with what their 1RM was and those things. But you have to be able to let those go and listen to your body. So I don't run. That's not a secret. But since all the quarantine stuff's happened, I've ran maybe 5 times. I did a run today's Wednesday. I did a run on Monday, and I was going to do a workout afterwards, like a BFR workout afterwards. And I was just floored. And by floored, I mean, I ran a mile and a quarter. And I was dead. So I just did 1 set of BFR push-ups, and I was like, I can't really do anymore because I was tired. And I'm okay with that. I got a good workout in. A mile and a half or mile and a quarter for me is way more than what I'm used to doing. That's a lot on my body. And if I'm tired, I'm tired. And I was okay with that, even though I wanted to get the BFR stuff in. So listening to your body and respecting it is huge.
Going back to the Achilles stuff, I mean, I think there's a couple of articles out there that they looked at just the demands on the body and certain muscles and high level runners, like elite runners. And for the soleus itself and just that gastroc complex, what is it? It's like 5 to 7 times your body weight and the force that gets transmitted through your gastroc and your soleus. So for someone that has never run before to just pick up running and go from 0 to 100 in 1 week, 2 weeks, you're just setting yourself up for failure, especially if you're not practicing some of those good runner hygiene tips that we talk about in the program. So again, don't run to get fit. You have to be fit to run, and we're ready to help you out with that. So let's talk about running form, because I'm a little bit worried about my running form and how efficient I am with running, because now it's been a couple weeks and I know my next run, I'm going to be feeling like Mike on that first run. But the way that I run looks different than the way that Arash runs. And the way that Arash runs looks differently than how Mike and I run. Is that something that we need to analyze? Is that something that we need to break down and change? What is your guys' take on that? Let's talk all things running form.
Yeah, running form. So I guess the first thing is when someone has pain or a dysfunction or something that's a chief complaint, that's when I'll hyperanalyze maybe why they're moving a certain way, and maybe we can at least for the short term adjust the way they're moving to offload that irritated area. However, in the long term, if someone comes in, they're healthy and they're just looking to improve their performance, that's someone that I may not worry so much about analyzing running form. But if that individual, for example, came in with knee pain, then that's an easy thing that we can adjust with something like cadence to offload the knee a little bit, where we increase step frequency. So that way, at least for that short-term period of time, they can run with a little less discomfort.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of other low-hanging fruit. Like by all means, you can 100% change someone's running form. I'm pretty against it, like changing someone's foot strike or something like that. But there's so many other low-hanging fruit, like you mentioned, like we already talked about, just cadence, or just what their training load is, or just what are the other stresses in life going on that we can address first. And by all means, if all those things aren't working, you've even talked with their running coach, everything's dialed in. You're like, okay, now let's look at the running form. Maybe there is something we can change. Because that's hard. We all chose that running form because it feels natural to us. That's why we all have a different running form.
And I think as students, and when we were first learning about running form was that thing that it was so cool. We wanted to break it down with slow-mo video. We wanted to analyze it. But the more that we've been practicing and the more that we're learning about running, like Mike suggested, there are so many other things that you could help a runner with. And when we're in the clinic and someone wants to ask, like, hey, are we going to take a look at my running form? When I say no, or I say that I want to wait on it, they get upset. They're like, what do you mean you don't want to look at my running form? Like, why aren't we going to look at my running form? And I don't think that it holds as much weight and value as other things that we discussed. So it's a matter of, it's an art to working with runners and rephrasing why it is that you don't want to analyze their running form or try to modify it for the time being, because you got to get that buy-in. But that's why in our program, we educate about running form, but we're not going to go over running form or basically tell you if and why you should change it, because there are so many things that 9 out of 10 times it's going to help you resolve your issue and get you back to running. Any activity, any sport, you don't want to be consciously thinking about it. It's analysis by paralysis. It's paralysis by analysis. You're going to get stiff. You're going to feel awkward. You want to do things naturally. Yeah. And the more that you have to think about how you're doing it, and if you're activating your psoas and your iliacus and minimizing your trunk lean, like that already it's confusing and it's overwhelming.
The soft skills are everything. When that runner comes in, I will look at the running form because I know what they're looking at, but I'll look at it for a minute and a half. But dude, your running form's amazing. It is epic. I've never seen such good form. And then address all the other low-hanging fruit that we talked about. Because you got to address what they're coming in for. But then, as we talked about, like you said, why do I want to run? I got to think about where I'm hitting. I got to think about my core being on. Like, that's not what we do when we run. Let's be real.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's too much. I mean, the reality is that as long as you improve the capacity of the tissues that you have, you can run however you want. Injury happens when your body is not prepared for the activity that you're putting on your body. So you can run with what we think is terrible posture, and you strengthen those tissues to the point where you can tolerate running. Perfect. There's plenty of long distance runners that pronate like crazy when they run. If anyone analyzed their running mechanics, they would be like, that's terrible. They're going to hurt themselves in just a matter of time. But then when you look at them, these people are running marathons and crazy record-breaking times. So you can't always predict injury based on form. However, if someone's coming back from an injury and they're getting back to running for the first time, then maybe like it could hold some value with saying where they like to load. And usually it's going to be the contralateral limb. And a lot of that you can already tell with things like squats or a lot of other exercises. And those things should be mastered before even jumping to running.
Yeah. Ultimately, if someone really wants you to watch them run, do it. They're facing the other way. Just answer an email or text or something. They won't even know. Let them know that your running looks good. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Something else too, I remember we talked about last time that I liked is the question I get often with long distance athletes is, should you strength train? Should you avoid strength training? Because you're working on these fast twitch muscle fibers with strength training. However, running is a very endurance activity. Will it hinder my performance? What do you guys think there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta train.
Yeah, it will increase your running economy. Like putting on that more muscle mass will actually increase your running economy, and it's muscle mass relative to what their body weight is. Their body weight may not change much, but they may put on a lot more lean muscle mass. So that's going to be good for them overall. So, and that's how you build tissue resiliency. What we talked about, building up your capacity to be able to withstand that new hill. I had a online telehealth thing, and the kid was like, yeah, my knee just started, he seen him for his ankle. My knee just started hurting because I just did these hills that my coach programmed for me. I've never done them before. And then I got really scared and I just stopped running and all my exercises. I was like, well, you just said you have never done hills before. That's tough. That's new. You're also coming off of an ankle injury. Of course your knee is not ready for that. Like, that's expected. So
yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Put it this way, I've never met a recreational runner that does a ton of strength training and has issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, true.
let's transition to squat fundamentals. So we recently released this program because we got to cover all the fundamental movements. People reach out to us all the time, messages, emails, you name it, and they want help with squatting. It's just the most common fundamental movement. I challenge you to count how many times you squat on a day. Actually, I don't recommend it because it's going to be too much and it's going to occupy too much of your time. But you have to squat all the time. You got to do it in so many different ways, different variations, different depth. You got to hold the position sometimes. I mean, it's just innate to human nature that we squat when we go to the bathroom. And once upon a time, there were not toilets. So if you can't squat, you're going to be running into a lot of barriers with your life. So that's why we just created the fundamentals, the basics. We created this program to help you master everything that it is that you need to know about squatting. Different squat variations, how to limit compensations with squatting, how to build your squat up if you're dealing with a current issue, but more importantly, just to help people get back to squatting and stay squatting. So, what do you guys like about this program?
I like the ability that the knowledge base that's provided in the program so that people can truly understand the joint by joint approach, where what body part needs mobility, where do you need strength, what are these prerequisites for me to master my squat. I think the education is huge, but obviously the more important piece is the actionable items that you're going to be doing on a weekly basis to get back to squatting with good form, making sure you feel confident, making sure we've broken down the movement, we part tasked it, so that way you know how to work yourself back into squatting.
I love the slow tempos. So for those of you guys, so all three of us write the programs together. There's always someone that takes the lead on it. So for example, on the squat one, Craig took the lead on it. But then we always come together and then we hash it out. We brainstorm. We always add, subtract. Okay, this works. This is what the research says over here. But I've tried this before. This has done really well. And the thing that we added on one of those brainstorming sessions was super, super slow tempos, which we incorporated very early on. And when you're learning a new movement, slowing things down is so huge to feel, A, what your muscles are doing. And usually most people don't have a clue, so that's why we're slowing them down. And B, where your weight is. Where your weight and your foot is influences so many things, not just what type of strategy you're going to have, like a hip or a knee strategy squat, but then also what muscles are going to be used and where you're going to feel yourself, getting I'm losing my train of thought, the control or the explosion out of the hole. Like your weight shift depends on everything, and slowing it down really forces people to hone in on that weight shift.
Those tempos are making your muscles work constantly. You would be surprised that when you perform really quick squats or regular squats, and you're not so focused on your tempo and your pace, there's so many times where that activation of your muscle may be really high, but then it drops down. And then it's fluttering while you're going through these movements. So when you do tempo, now you're sustaining a higher level of muscle activation during that eccentric. And then especially at the bottom during that isometric where we make you hold these positions. If you can't hold it, then you don't own it. And it's so important to be able to own every single position of the squat. And trust me, tempos will absolutely destroy your muscles. I totally underestimated them. And that's why my hamstring gave me a ton of issues the next day, because we filmed so much tempos on that day. And that is where all three of us, we always fall back to tempos in rehab and in establishing and owning movements, because it's that isometric hold, it's that tempo, it's making your muscle work constantly. And then it's time under tension, which we know there is so much evidence to support. Time under tension is really, if we're talking about muscle development and promoting like muscle protein synthesis, we need to increase the total volume of that muscle working. And that's why tempo is so good. The other thing that I want to point out with this program is we're taking the guesswork out of figuring out what is the best squat form and the best squat stance for you. We literally make you do this on week one, day one, Arash and I, we filmed almost a solid 9-minute video teaching you how to discover your own perfect squat stance. And we show you how to do it by yourself without any help, because a lot of people, they're having to isolate during these times, or they may not have someone to help them out and teach them how to do this. So the three of us will do this assessment all the time in the clinic, but we had to challenge ourselves. How can we teach someone how to do this on their own? And that's why we filmed this video. We give you all the tools that you need to troubleshoot it. Hey, here's how to mess with your stance. Here's how to mess with your foot position. Here's how to pick the right depth. If your depth on the ground is different than the depth standing, maybe here's why, and here's how to work on it. And I think that's the coolest thing, because then we're encouraging you throughout the program to work on that stance and to work on owning that depth. And I mean, I think even Mike, you did like so much shoulder scapular stability stuff in a similar fashion to how the squat program is set up for your legs while you were in China. And then all of your upper body lifts like significantly improved and everything felt better, right?
Yeah, it was basically slowing it down. I like to lift, so I'm used to just want to put weights on, but then slowing it down, taking it back, dialing it back. When I was in China, I was working with Joe Godges. He's just an amazing PT, and he showed me a lot of scap drills. So I did a bunch of those, and then I hadn't lifted for at least 2 weeks because the courses are kind of long. And then I went back to the gym, and all my pushes, my push press, push jerk, all that stuff went way up. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I didn't even practice the movement that I have. And we know specificity is very important, but not even practicing the lift, just working on stuff for 2 weeks helped improve my lift. So that was awesome.
Yeah. So that specificity, it's so important. So if you love back squatting, yes, you got to practice back squatting, but I'd bet my money that if you were to go through this program, if you were to work on discovering your perfect stance position and practicing on owning that position, you do that for 6 weeks, there is no doubt that you're going to feel better with squatting.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Own it. Would you say if you can't hold it, you don't own it?
I think so. Yeah,
something like that. I like that.
Yeah. I'll add that quote.
No, I like that. That's the same idea with like making sure people can do these low sit to stands and making sure they understand how to hold the position. That's why these like this post that we did earlier this week got a lot of questions with when would you do this isometric hold at the deep squat position. And a lot of it is after you work on mobility, well, how do you maintain that mobility? By activating the muscles in that range of motion. Passive interventions yield passive results. And unless you actually hold those positions, your body won't remember to maintain that newly afforded range. And so I completely agree with that.
Yeah, movement is much more than muscles, bones, and joints and connective tissue. You got to think everything that we do, there's a signal related to it. And that is our neuromuscular system in our brain working together to, okay, we're exploring these new movements, we're exploring these different positions, but now we have to strengthen that connection. We have to flex that position to build that stronger signal and that stronger pathway. So I like that addition. Yeah, if you can't hold it, you can't own it. I said that.
We'll trademark that.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, guys. Let us know what you would like us to talk about more moving into the future. The three of us are trying to make these podcasts a little bit more of a weekly routine. So give us feedback, leave us comments, give us suggestions, and yeah.
Leave a review if you like it.
Yeah, leave a review. Also, let us know if there's other programs that you want us to build out, like on this comprehensive level. Let us know. We're starting to create more and test it, trial it out with our clients, patients, have other PTs try it out. We want to make sure that we're providing as high quality content that you guys want. So obviously we can't put a full-on program on social, but this app that we have has allowed us to build these comprehensive programs, and we want to hear what you guys think.
If you can't hold it, you own it. Until next time.
If you can't hold it, you don't own it. That's it.
See ya.
All right, guys. Until next time.